Now, the 14th Commonwealth Regional Conference of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Africa is underway in Ghana. Now, the conference is jointly organized by the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Government of Ghana and brings together members of the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies within the Commonwealth Africa, senior government officials, relevant international organizations, policymakers and development partners to address key priorities towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 16. Now, delegates will share their knowledge and good practices, discuss the impacts of corruption on sustainable development in Africa, and innovative approaches in the fight against corruption. Now, joining us on the line is the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission in Namibia, Paulus Noah. A very good evening, Mr. Noah.
Yes, good evening, madam.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, talk to us about the conference. It's being held annually since the inception of the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies within the Commonwealth since 2011. What would you say has been the impact?
Oh, yes, you're right. Every year, the heads of anti-corruption agencies meet under the umbrella of the Commonwealth Secretariat, and we discuss different issues where we share our good practices and experiences. As you know, that the country have got different experiences, and they have also different good practices. But then, in addition to that, as you ask about the impact, since the association has been established and we have been meeting, some positive impacts have really been made. To mention the critical one, since then there has been a research and training center which has been set up. It is based in Gaborone, Botswana, where the officials of anti-corruption agencies who are members of the Commonwealth in Africa always go for training. And especially our officials at the Anti-Corruption Commission have massively benefited from that in terms of training. Because this center is offering relevant training in the sense that resource persons are experts who are drawn from these global organizations. And they offer this training sometimes in person, that they travel to Gaborone, depending whether there are sponsors who have sponsored for them to come directly to Gaborone, or sometimes the trainings are also being done virtually. And these trainings are very effective and relevant training in the sense that these are training on financial investigative techniques, trainings in a form of beneficial ownership, how to investigate those beneficial ownership. As you know that these days, it's not just a matter of investigating the person whose name is being mentioned, but it's to go deeper and find out who are the actual owner, because sometimes it has been discovered that the people who are subject to investigation sometimes are not necessarily the only people involved in that typical corruption. But beyond that, there are some beneficial owners, and these are normally the real reason behind this corruption. As a result, they are given this intensive training so that at the end of the day, they will be able to understand and know how to carry out that investigation. And the investigation training also go as far as exposing them to the relevant software that they will need when they are doing investigation. Like, corruption is being perpetrated using devices and technological means these days. As a result, investigators, they have to be ahead of this as well. They must have skills and know how to use this software for them to be able to track down relevant information.
Right. Now, Mr. Noah, the delegates will share their knowledge and also good practices and discuss the impacts of corruption on sustainable development. Now, talk to us, just how much do acts of corruption impact or derail development?
Yeah, corruption, especially if we are talking about the grand corruption, is in either financial sectors or fishery sectors, mining sectors, or even in procurement, it has a very detrimental effect to the development of the economy. As a result, really, corruption is actually the partner, is the cause of all evils, and it can set back development in a given country. It should not be allowed to continue or to be perpetrated, because the moment you allow it to be perpetrated, then you, as a country, cannot make a progress. Let me just give an example, like Namibia now having some investors who are investing in gas and oil, they are investing in green hydrogen and other sectors. If, for argument's sake, our policies that are being developed and the laws that are being passed are not so effective to curb the corruption, then we have to forget about developing the country, because these are national resources, these are natural resources that's supposed to be used to develop the country. But then if you allow penetration in one way or another to penetrate, then it means that will be a setback to the aspirant development that we expect to come from these resources.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Noah, so much has been said about combating corruption. We know various measurement tools that can look at the level of corruption in various states, but we don't appear to see much progress when it comes to the fight to corruption. How do platforms such as this support the efforts to really effectively fight this scourge?
Yeah, no, really, there is progress. Only that perhaps this progress is not easy for people to touch it, but progress is there. Africa and the rest of the world has really come a long way from those years when laws were not there. But a progress has been made, though a lot still needs to be done. Progress in terms of, laws that have been passed by countries. As we are in this conference, every country is giving account of their report on what progress they have made, what law they have passed, and how those laws are being implemented. Look at what we are coming from 10 years back and see where we are today. You can see that many countries, especially on the African continent, they have made a massive progress. And even the reporters, you go to the report of this Transparency International and other reporters and other bodies that report on corruption, they will tell you that African countries, especially those ones who are members of the Commonwealth, there is today less corruption comparing to the past years. Not that there is no corruption, definitely it is there, but there is a massive improvement from what they have come from. This is because, look, the countries have come up with some relevant laws. To just give you an example of Namibia itself, our country has come up with some plethora of laws. Last year only, you might have been following that there were some 11 laws that were passed that time when the country was being evaluated. The purpose of passing this law and amending the laws is to ensure that organized crime, corruption, and corruption that is being perpetrated due to lack of registration on beneficial ownership, all this corruption are being kept. And these laws now are in the process of being implemented in the country. Other countries are also doing exactly the same. We may not be at the same level because, there are some countries that are really advancing, including Namibia. Namibia is moving faster in terms of introduction of these technical laws that are meant to fight the organized crimes. But then there are also countries that are also following their suit. The reason and the purpose of the conference is always to share. Namibia is sharing to other countries what we have in place, and we are also listening to other countries to see what they have in place. At the end of the day, when you go back to your respective country, you look at your own system and find out what is in place and what is not in place so that you can improve where you are. So the progress is there, even though we still have to do some other efforts to ensure that there is effective prevention of corruption in the country.
All right, now, Mr. Noah, some people would reason that people engage in corrupt means because of partially low wages or salaries. Talk to us, can improved wages reduce corruption?
Yeah, well, it's true. I have heard people talking about issues of wages and salaries. And my position is that in as much as the wages and salaries should not be ignored in order to improve the conditional services of public officials, it must at the same time not be used as a justification for people to indulge in corruption. Let me tell the Namibian people that people who indulge themselves in grand corruption, those who are perpetrating this grand corruption, are not people who are maybe having low salaries or low wages. These are people who are well off in terms of income. And these are the people who have got means. And they are the ones who are involving themselves in this grand corruption out of sheer greed. It's not that because their salary or their wages are low. It's not that they are being compelled by the circumstances to involve in this grand corruption. The people who commit this other minor corruption due to salaries, those ones we do understand them, and their condition needs to be improved, of course. But then that should not be a justification. Corruption is so destructive, no matter who is perpetrating it. And therefore, for wages and salaries to be low, that should not be a justification. But then again, authorities are urged to consider the living condition of the officials so that officials do not feel compelled to commit corruption by either accepting or offering corruption to those who are coming to them.
Now, Mr. Noah, you were facilitating a meeting this afternoon. What are the other countries saying and also discussing in terms of means they have in place to fight corruption that Namibia could perhaps emulate?
Oh yes, I was facilitating, and I could observe that, yes, there are certain lessons that we can learn from some countries, and as much as there are lessons that they can also learn from Namibia. Because countries have got different challenges due to different political support and the resource that they get from their political authorities. There are some countries that are really operating under difficult situations in terms of the political commitment that they get from, according to what they said, that they are not really getting full support. The other challenges, different from country to country, is also in terms of funding. Some agencies, they are not getting the necessary funding, and they do not have sufficient human resources for them to be able to be effective in their efforts that they want to put in place. Those are the issues. But then, of course, there are also countries where you find that ethics and integrity is something that seems to be lacking, unfortunately, as well. And this is what sets back the progress in those respective countries. Then, in a majority of countries, definitely, they really have quite good progress that they are making. And as a result, as I was facilitating some of these sessions, I could observe that, yes, the continent is on the right trajectory, even though, as I said already, that still more needs to be done. But what I could observe during the session is that the country are making their efforts. All what is needed is just our political principles across the continent to speak with one voice and commit themselves to the support of anti-corruption agencies and also commit themselves to the fight against corruption, because this is the only way that they can guarantee development in their respective countries.
Now, Mr. Noah, as we conclude our discussion, talk to us about technology. It's also making a mark in fighting corruption, since nowadays such elements have become innovative and actually an act of corruption might not be detected well in time. How can African agencies innovate to really move with the times?
No, you are very right. You are very right. But because we have also discovered that these days we are no longer investigating the olden form of corruption, which was just people exchanging brown envelopes under the table and so on. Corruption these days is being perpetrated through technological means. And as a result, it calls for investigating officials to be ahead of these perpetrators of corruption, meaning that they must be trained in relevant software technologies that would help them to detect corruption. They must be trained to be able to detect and preempt financial corruption, fraud, and also be able to prevent the organized crime or to detect these organized crimes. These days, we must go as far as also be able to investigate these virtual assets. As you have mentioned about technology, corruption is being technologically perpetrated. As a result, some of the assets are being acquired through virtual means, and the software that are able to help the investigating officers to track down and detect this need to be made available to them. Some of them are very costly. I have seen it in Namibia because time to time, we acquire some software that we are using through investigation, and they are not cheaper at all. If, for example, the authority does not give sufficient budget to anti-corruption agencies, it's becoming very frustrating for the investigating agencies to succeed in their investigation, to be able to train their officials successfully so that they will be ahead of these criminals.